everyone. Welcome to Real Talk Transforming Your Energy. Celebrating 1 year of this talk. So I just want to give a round of applause and a shout out first to all the folks who have been a guest on this talk. But to introduce myself, I'm Rosie. I am the founder of Reaching Depths Coaching. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge all the individuals who have been a part of this talk for the last year, going in the order since last July, which is interesting. So it's really, really cool to have this 1 year culmination of really taking a moment to celebrate these folks. So July of 2020 was Jeremy Lawton, and he is the moment coach. Then August was William Hung, motivational speaker. September was Mavia Hardiman, who is a nurse and educator. October, Forrest Bolin, who is also a awesome coach, who used to be one of my personal coaches, actually my first coach, an amazing mentor to me. November was a panel of coaches. So we had Charmaine Denise, who is a spiritual coach, Rachel Brandt, who focuses on trauma, Sergio Jaimes Bagare, who focuses on parents and making sure that they're healthy, and Quinn Yamamoto, who is focused on self-love. December is Corey Cat Wilson, who is also a fellow coach and doing her thing and doing great things. And then in 2021, we have amazing folks to continue and really go through the year. Julieta Octavio, who is an acupuncturist and holistic healer. February was Patrick Emily Fay Jr. Forgot to add that the last one from yesterday, but he is a doctor in anesthesiology, San Francisco native. March was Lauren De Vera, who is a creative speaker and coach, amazing, talented woman. April was Darlene San Jose, who is an occupational therapist and has her own podcast called Wifey Moms. Very amazing. She is married to her wife. They have a child together and really exploring what that life is like now in 2021. May, I brought back Sergio to discuss his practice in more detail. And June was Elisa Sakilayan, who is also a coach who focuses on eating disorders and body image. So such amazing people. If you have not had a chance to really, really look at these talks and listen to them, they are available on my website, www.rndnursecoach.com. If you go under the movement tab, you'll find all the videos listed there. So if any of those names or specialties ring true to you, go back to the talk, listen to them. They all give great advice on life and within their specialty. So what's today about? This is like a short impromptu thing that my partner is here. It's to celebrate the 1 year. And I figured this would be a good point to talk about myself, share my story, and be interviewed by the one person who has supported me through this journey and has seen me continue to evolve since we've been together for 3 years now. So hi, babe.
Hi.
You want to introduce yourself for this talk?
Sure. So I'm Una. I am, as Rosie said, I am her partner. We're partners. And I have witnessed, part of her journey since we've been together, but also her journey opening this coaching practice, and just seeing what she does for her clients and how incredibly committed she is. And it's been quite a journey. It's really brave of her to do, drop all convention at the door and start her own coaching practice. So I'm very proud of her. And it's fun to kind of turn the tables. And usually I'm moderating on the side of the other Real talks. So now I get to sort of turn the camera on myself. I'm in Buffalo, but I'm still representing the Bay, of course. And so I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So you asked me the question, what do you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm always open to sharing my story. And if anyone who is watching live, feel free to drop in questions in the chat if you want to know more about me, what I do. But I think my partner has some really great questions lined up to get us started. So again, this is an impromptu thing, not scripted at all. So anything can come out of my mouth at this point. But I figure, you know what? You get to know me as a person and what I do, hopefully get a better sense of that. Sometimes social media text, when you read the text, doesn't really fully convey the person and who they are. So I am becoming more courageous in putting myself out there and doing live talks about myself and my story. So
yay. Can we just show off the hair really quick before we start? Because I noticed that Rosie might have gotten her hair done today and it looks pretty awesome. That is amazing. I love it.
In Cifuentes, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That is your son's barber too. So I just want to give him a shout out. He did an amazing job on the hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Shorter and shorter as we speak. So
exactly. Looks awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think probably the only thing that, we did this yesterday as well on Instagram Live, and one of the things that I do want to do the same is just have you tell a little bit about your story and your journey and like how you came to open your own coaching practice.
So good question. It's a two-part answer. One is my personal journey, and the other is my professional journey. So the two P's. Personally, my self-love journey, I consciously made this decision in 2014 to focus on myself. At the time, I was with my ex-boyfriend, who we're still friends with till this day. But looking back, at the end of our relationship, we could not grow together. So I think we wanted different things. And I thought, he was it. And he knows the story. My partner knows the story. So it's not a surprise to anyone. But I thought he was the one to buy the home, to have the children, to get married to. And it didn't work out that way. And that's okay. And from that time, I remember feeling very empty. And I had to make this choice. And I wanted to put myself in that position. Let me make that clear, to make a choice that either A, I can continue feeling the way that I feel. So at the time, feeling empty, depressed, very insecure. And this is years of buildup since I was a child, being bullied a lot, being critiqued and judged a lot, not feeling worthy of myself. So a lot of heaviness, negativity and anger I felt growing up. Or I can make a choice to heal from those things. I figured at that point, being at feeling empty, that I can fill that space with something different, because I already knew if I continued on that path of feeling angry and feeling pessimistic, negative inside, not loving myself and seeing myself as this horrible, and this is honest, guys, I really did feel like a horrible, just not worthy person or valuable person, in this world. And I didn't want to feel like that anymore. But I knew that I needed to fill that void, not anyone else. And maybe you can relate to this or not. I looked for others to tell me that I'm beautiful and that I'm worth it. So I always searched for those compliments, whether it was in my personal life, intimate relationships, my professional life, just looking for those things to help boost that confidence and self-worth in me, because I couldn't do it on my own. So that really was the start. And I sought help too, therapist, coach, different folks to help me get in the right mindset for these type of things. But I was ready to do that. That point I reached, rock bottom. So that's the personal part. The professional part is I've been a nurse for 14 years now. I started as a registered nurse in 2007. And the backstory to that is, Filipino. There's a lot of nurses who are Filipino, not stereotyping, but it's a true stereotype. And culturally, becoming a nurse, part of it is that it's a stable job. So stable income, stable benefits, and that's what I was taught to do. So when folks ask, like, why did I become a nurse initially? Could I say it was my passion? Absolutely not. And I say that with love, but I grew to love what I do. And I think the one great thing about the nursing profession is that it's versatile. So there's many different specialties you can focus on. And it took me 14 years to find that. So I was a registered nurse, became a nurse practitioner, worked in med-surg, addiction medicine, primary care, gastroenterology, still wasn't fully happy with what I was doing until I joined a nurse coaching program through the Integrative Nurse Coach Association, where they go by INCA. And for the first time, learning theory was very fun for me. So I think we can't, going through a lecture is one thing, and most of the time it's just sitting there trying to soak in anything you can. But it was the first time something resonated very true. And I realized that my superpower as a healthcare provider is having deeper conversations with my clients. So really talking about the hard stuff that sometimes we can't even admit to ourselves. So combining those two experiences together is how I opened Reaching New Depths Coaching. So Reaching New Depths Coaching, if you look at the logo very closely, there's two hands that reach for each other. And I give props to my best friend who helped me, Eileen Bailon, who helped me with the last letter of this whole practice of depths and what that really means. But it's to reach beyond and to reach deep. So that's what Reaching the Depths Coaching is about. And that's reaching within you and not even finding, but being who you actually want to be, your authentic self, whatever that may be for you. And I'm one to help guide you through that process, because sometimes it can be very rough to shed light again on who your authentic self is. Because I think in life we go through a lot of hard experiences, negative ones that stick with us. They become our truth and story because we experience it so many times in different forms. But sometimes we lose sight of that. So here I am to help guide folks to being themselves and who they truly are. and being happy in the process of living their life and what they want to do. So does that answer their question?
Yes, it does. Perfect.
My long-winded answer, but it's
no, and I like the two parts. Some people, I can't see who's on right now, but some people might know your story, but some people might not be familiar with it. And I think it's super important to, sort of illustrate how you came to open your own practice and what experiences you've had in your life that really sort of, I don't want to say qualify, but you've been through a lot with things in your life that clients can really relate to, and you can relate to them. So I think it's good for people to know the story. I wanted to ask, and this might be a bit of a tough question because you have had so many amazing guests, and like I said, I've moderated all of the talks, so I've listened to all of them. But they were all great, so I don't want to ask you to pick a favorite, but was there a sort of standout or like very aha moment in one of those talks where one of your guests said something that really like resonated with you? I have one, but I want you to share your, because I think that there were several, but if you can think of one, if you can think back over the past year, there've been, so many.
There have been some really amazing, all of them, not even some, all the guests I've had were amazing. The first one that came to mind out of the awesome guests that I had, I thought of, because it was different for me and something to explore, is Lauren DeVera. And if you listen to our talk closely, we start to dive in about identity and culture. And it's something, as we know, this world that we live in is constantly changing in terms of how we perceive certain kind of ethnic backgrounds, cultural practices. And she was the first one in that talk where I really had this moment with her, because we're both Filipina, to really honor the kind of experiences as a culture that we've been through. And I haven't experienced that yet, let alone have really talked about it publicly or live on social media. But it was something that really drew deeper for me, which questioned me to explore what that means living in this world where there is a hierarchy. I mean, it's out there. This is what we're experiencing, especially in this country as well. So that was something for me that I still to this day explore and figure out what that means for me in my place and what I can offer being who I am, being a Filipina, being a pansexual, being a woman, being a person of color. So, which all, unfortunately face some difficulties to really get yourself known and your voice heard. So.
Yeah, I remember that part of that particular talk was really powerful. Can I say what mine is?
Yeah.
So I think it was a more recent talk. I think it was Alyssa. Am I getting her name right? She posted on like body image. So there was a moment, and I feel like I've heard this said before, but the way that she said it just really resonated with me as someone who struggled with body image and former ballet dancer and all that stuff. She said that and this is not just for you're looking physically at yourself, but looking at any sort of facet of yourself, to zoom out. When you're looking in the mirror and you tend to start nitpicking about, my thighs are too big, or I have cellulite here, or I don't like my, whatever it is. She said she tells her clients to zoom out their vision and just take a look at themselves, from a zoomed out perspective, where you're really looking at yourself as a whole. But for some reason, the way that she said it just really resonated with me. So that was really powerful moment in one of your talks that I will always remember. It genuinely affected me for sure. So I loved that.
Oh yeah, like I said, all of the guests were amazing, and her talk was very unique. I think it's something that a lot of us, probably 99% of us, struggle with, is body image issues in its mild or huge form. So she did say something that was very huge for people to zoom out and what that really means to look at all of you, instead of one micro detail. So it's awesome. I'm glad that resonated with you.
Yeah, it did. And it kind of reminds me of, because I've heard, like I said, I've heard things said like that before, but for some reason she put it in a way that resonated differently. And I've also, with your clients and the way that you coach, I've noticed that too, with like just your testimonials and things, that people feel like they may have heard the things that you're saying in a different way, but there's a way that you say them. There's a way that you work with your clients and relay it to them, that they just hear it differently. And so they're not just hearing the same thing. It actually means something, and they're actually, internalizing it. And they're like, oh, okay, this is what all that self-help, mindfulness and deep breathing and, all this stuff that we hear about is great, but you sort of bring it all together for them in a way that they can really use, and tools that they can use. So you have that effect on people too. So the only question I formulated before this talk, because we were talking about it and I was thinking about it, is, now having had this practice for over a year, is there sort of like a running theme through all of your clients, like something that you find that everyone is having challenges with, that not only you've recognized that maybe, but maybe has also helped you to sort of develop or like decide, how you're going to move forward in the future? Like, having had all these clients, are there things that they all have in common?
It's a really good question, because the type of coaching that I do, really focuses on the inside of someone. And what I mean by that is looking at how you really feel about yourself, even the daily thoughts that you have about yourself. Do you actually feel happy being yourself? Are you really being yourself? Or do you feel like you have imposter syndrome or feeling anxious and depressed? So the general themes I've seen, and especially in the midst of the pandemic, this is still not over yet, but 2020 has really pulled things away that were out of our control. And so in light of that, folks have had to sit with their own stuff. So it did raise, I think, things that someone was either conscious or not conscious about, but those are the things that I focus on. And the common ones I've seen by far: anxiety, depression. Mm-hmm. I have worked with people who do have psychiatric disorders, which I do in the way that I coach, take all of that into account, not just how you're feeling, like a lack of confidence or feeling stuck, but really looking at all of you. And even just looking at on a deeper level, shame. And shame is something that sometimes we can't even admit to ourselves that we feel. And if we do admit it, then we feel like we're this bad, or we feel guilty that we feel that way. But I think being a human, you're bound to experience and perceive different experiences. So depending on how you cope with that, which I think a lot of it too, thinking about it, is looking back at your childhood and trauma that happened from there. How sometimes things that have happened in your childhood, because you didn't have the capacity or the coping strategies to deal with that, do linger throughout your lifetime. So when do you actually recognize it? And if you're ready to recognize it and to really heal from it, that's what I focus on. So it's a very deeper thing. It's not a thing that some people probably search for the first thing, but however, I will say, being a nurse, there's also, and being a nurse practitioner and the experience that I have, I do look at multiple arenas of health. So your physical symptoms matter, your spiritual, your environmental, all of it. Your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, environmental. So all of those aspects I do look at with my clients. So in that way, I can get a better sense of who you are and really tailor the experience to you. I don't compare you to other clients. I don't have a chart or an algorithm that says, if you're here, you go here. Or if you're that way, then you go down that way. It's not like that. As the experience goes with self-care and with your self-work, it's not a linear journey either. So it goes in zigzags, or sometimes up, sometimes down, sideways, but I will be that person to help guide you through that as well. So it's a very detailed description, but it's in the process of doing this with the clients I've had so far. It's been amazing to see their transformation, even beyond, working, with me. And I'm just giving myself a good brag, because there are some clients who have reached out to me about 1 month, 3 months, a year after. Our mutual friend as well, who are like, I finally get it, but they feel very different and they have that awareness around it. So I won't name names of who that is, but you know who I'm referring to when I say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the important part, right? Because people, the goal is that they're working with you, but they're not working with you forever. Like, you want to get them to the point where they have these coping skills and they have these tools in their toolbox that they can use to do this on their own once they're, once they've finished working with you. And you've had clients tell you that, like, sometimes, like you said, it doesn't even dawn on them until, like, they don't fully understand, or they don't fully get it or realize it or internalize it until a few months after your sessions end. And then they're like, oh, because then they start applying it in their life, or they get through a difficult situation, they do something differently than they did before because of your, everything that you've helped them with. So then they're like, oh, okay, this is what she was talking about. I know I've had those moments. Yesterday I talked a little bit about how when Rosie and I have our, we are a perfect couple. We never fight. Just kidding. We do. And I found myself using one of her methods. It's called the ABCD method, and maybe she can go through it quickly, to like build on that. My mom this morning, who I think might be tuning in, hi mom, she told me that she uses this at work. I won't give a lot of details, but she's a nurse as well, high stress environment, and she uses ABCD when she finds herself getting angry at something that someone else has done. So it stuck with both of us. So do you want to just explain a little quickly what the method is?
Of course. So the ABCD method to become unstuck. So A stands for acknowledge. So in a moment where you're feeling stressed or you perceive something as negative, you just want to acknowledge that that's real, right? If you acknowledge that you're trying to suppress it or resist it, you might actually build more anger or more negative energy around that. So just acknowledging that I'm angry, I'm irritated, this person hurt me, or whatever that is for you. What happened? Just acknowledge what that is and say it in one statement. B stands for breathe. So the intentional breath helps us so much to reset on a mental, emotional, and physical level, like what an intentional breath can do for us. So breathing in. And C stands for clear. So when you exhale, you're clearing that out with intention, that negative energy and feeling that you have. D is the most important step, but you have to set up with ABC first, obviously, right? ABCD. So D stands for decide. So you get to choose in that next little millisecond or space that you have your next thought and your next action. So this gives you that moment to decide what you want to do next. And most of the time, maybe if you practice this, it takes practice. You're not always going to be perfect, and that's okay. But instead of acting impulsively to something, right? Yelling, throwing something, maybe you can take a step back and just say, okay, is that necessary to do, or can I approach this in another way? So in a sense, you're being assertive with your next step. So that's the ABCD method.
Yeah, it's great. I use it all the time, and apparently so does my mom. So let's see, how are we doing on time? I know we were, a little late coming on, so I don't know if you want to make up those few minutes, or
we have about, wherever this goes, like 7. We have like 7 minutes, but
okay,
yeah,
perfect. I think, one thing that you were talking about when you were, just talking about your clients and the common thread with them, when you said, a lot of people have stuff from their childhood, which I think we can all relate to. I know this is probably not something you can easily explain quickly, but what is one thing, one tool, or one method that you use with your clients to sort of start resolving those things from their childhood? Or do you resolve them, or do you just process them and let them go, or do they always linger, or what's sort of like a technique or something that you do with your clients?
It's, as you said, it is a deeper process to really work through, but the first question I always ask, for example, if someone has anxiety, this is something that's very prevalent, across the world. I just ask a client, are you your anxiety? Right, you're making the differentiation between, yes, I am my anxiety, or I'm not. And if you say that you're not, then there is some room to really work on separating that anxiety feeling from who you truly are. So how do you do that? I don't want to say on here, but there is definitely some deeper work that we look at to help identify what anxiety feels like, looks like, says to you. That is a practice to really dive into what this persona is for you. and I don't want to make, I know it sounds very, what's the word I want to use? I can't think of the word, but
Abstract.
it does. Yeah. I mean, it sounds abstract, but there are steps that I go through with my clients to identify what their story is behind a certain feeling. So for this example, what is your story behind anxiety? Who is he or she? If you already know that that anxiety is not you, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And I think, identifying too, if you can identify some of those things that come from, your anxiety comes from things that happened when you were a kid, or things that you saw, or things that you heard constantly. So that's, really important. What do they call it? Like your inner child, or your inner, if you haven't healed that inner child, then it's going to keep coming back.
Oh yeah.
Oh, your wounded child. That's what it is. Your wounded child. Yeah, I think, God, I had a good question in my head. What was it? Oh, we're live. It's gone. I had a very good question for you and I forgot what it was. But I'd like to know, in the little time that we have left, maybe everyone would like to know sort of what's in the future for you, now that you have a year under your belt and you're looking at all of your clients and your coaching and everything that you've been doing. Where are you going to go from here?
So right now, given the state of things and where I am, in my life, I still do work part-time as a nurse practitioner. So, and I do my coaching practice part-time. At the moment, one-to-one coaching seems like the full hard answer I can give you. So I do offer a 1-month program and a 3-month program. And that's what I personally want to do. I love the one-on-one time that I have with my clients to really focus on them. In the future, and I'm putting this out there as an intention to the universe of what I would love to do if I had all the resources in the world, is combine nurse coaching and being a nurse practitioner together. Because as a nurse practitioner versus a registered nurse, I can assess, diagnose, and prescribe medications. It's a higher level scope of practice, and I would love to combine both one day. So I'm going to put that out there. That's been my dream, to expand Reach New Depths coaching beyond one-to-one coaching, but really putting in the health aspect, physical health aspect to it as well. So that is something I'm hoping for in the next few years.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I think it's definitely going to happen because you're already manifesting it.
I hope so. Head sale. Anyway, really? See, guys, this is why I have to choose her. Like, this is what she does to me. See this live? I can just joke about that, guys. We're just kidding. But no, it's been great. I think, if anything, if you tune in live or you're watching the replay, again, this is to celebrate 1 year of Real Talk Transforming Your Energy. It was previously called Real Talk Self-Love until 2021. There are many guests that I've had on here that I gave them that shout out earlier. I just want to say thank you again for making the time to speak to my community and giving your energy and positivity to them. And I know that different people have found these talks helpful and they look back to them, to your advice. In other news, in terms of continuing, I am looking for guests. I do have a couple of guests lined up for the next few months, so we'll see what happens. But as of right now, don't be a stranger. Message me if you have any questions. I'm more than happy just to have a chat. Not selling anything, just getting to know me. If you want to know more, if you're interested in coaching and want to work with me one-to-one, and you want to see if that's really a fit, that they start with a conversation first, because on both ends, I want to make sure that we are both satisfied and can continue working together. But other than that, I'm just going to continue living life. 2021 has been very interesting. I mean, as you can see, I have a lovely partner and a beautiful stepson, and continuing to grow in that way personally. So, I mean, outside of this coaching practice, guys, and my professional life, I mean, I'm just simply want to live life just feeling joyful and authentic in what I do too. So really simple things. Quality time is my love language. So I just love spending time and being present with those who want to spend time with me. So feel free to reach out and connect with me if that calls to you.
And I want to say, for anyone who's, out there, or you're watching the replay, I really love this sort of off the cuff live thing. I think it's great because it makes us very vulnerable, and I think people relate to vulnerability. They relate to mistakes, they relate to technical difficulties and all of it. So if you want to see more of these, because Rosie's really trying to put herself out there and do more of these, I think you should, sort of send her, harass her by Instagram account or her Facebook, send her a message, be like, we want to see more, or, you know, comment on the replay, because I think these are really great. And it's so much more of a casual forum where we could really just talk about anything that comes up. And it's really fun. It's fun for me too.
This is why I don't give her that power. I'm just kidding. I mean, if anything, you guys, I'm always open to feedback too. So if there's more things you want to see, if there's things you feel like you need to give me feedback on, I'm happy to accept any form of feedback, and I do take those very seriously. I continue to grow as a person, not just professionally, but also personally. So in saying that, thank you for tuning in.
Thank
you.
you.
Play. I know we were a little argumentative, but it's okay. See, relationships just work that way, but we can joke around with each other. But otherwise, I will continue to show up as I am with all of you. So until next time, take care, guys.
Bye. Mwah.